Hi, I'm JR Forasteros. I recently published Empathy for the Devil with InterVarsity Press, and I'm in Chicago today visiting from Dallas, Texas, and I had to stop by the IVP Bookshelf because I needed to stock up on some of my favorite books. These books right here, these dictionaries of the Bible, are some of my favorite resources as a pastor. No matter how well you remember your education, and let's be honest, the further you get away from college and seminary, the harder it is. These are an awesome refresher. Anytime I'm diving into a biblical text and I just need like a little bit of a refresher, a little bit of a memory jog on genre or a particular city or an event, I go to these texts and they're already right there. It's such a good place to start researching for a message, and so I'm really grateful for this group of resources. They've been a lifesaver on countless sermons. What's next? Let's see. This book, Sarah Shin's Beyond Colorblind, is fantastic. It just came out, so it's still pretty new, but she does a wonderful job of talking about why it's not good enough to say that we don't see race. I think that's a common response when people hear talk about race today because we're talking so much about race. I've had plenty of my own parishioners and my own friends say, well, isn't the fact that we're talking about race the problem? Shouldn't we be post-racial or move beyond that? Sarah does a great job of explaining why that's not actually helpful, why in fact God designed us to value our ethnic identities, and then how we can have friendships that cross ethnic barriers in ways that are respectful, in ways that are life-giving, in ways that are mutually enriching. So this is a book that we're planning to use in our church that's already doing a lot of good in our community. I'm so grateful that Sarah and IVP put it out because it's already doing us a world of good. Also, I want to give a shout. I can't really reach these, but the Andy Crouch shelf up here. You probably already know about Andy Crouch, but everything he writes has just been very light shaping for me, especially Playing God and Strong and Weak as a leader, as a pastor, and I think particularly again as a person of privilege. His books have been illustrating for me what it looks like to lead well and to engage in culture well, and I'm so grateful for Andy's voice. Those two books in particular, he said that he wrote Strong and Weak as almost like an add-on to Playing God. So I'd highly recommend Playing God first. In fact, if I could make a required reading for basically like everyone, I would. But then make sure you also get a Strong and Weak. It's a shorter book, but it flows right out of the ideas that he's playing with in Playing God. And so I know you won't be sad that you read those books. In fact, I think they'll be really powerfully shaping and formative for your spirituality and for the way you see the world. Also, my friend Beth Leach, she and I are both Nazarene pastors. We both put out our books within a week of each other with InterVarsity, and so it was kind of a fun experience to get to do this together. But this is a book called Emboldened. It's a vision for women in ministry. And I would say it's primarily written to women who are struggling with a call to ministry or struggling to find their voice. But as a man who leads a lot of women and who is encouraging women in ministry, I found it incredibly helpful. I bought a giant stack of them to give to my female board members, the women at my church who preach, the women in my church who lead our teens, everyone I could think of. I just gave them a copy of this book, and it does such a good job of explaining why women's voices are so important in the church, and again, why they're so important not just for other women, but for men too, why we need men and women leading at every level in the church to really capture the full biblical picture of God. And it's beautifully written. Beth uses anecdotes and pastoral wisdom and scriptural interpretation. It's all woven together in this really great, very readable, very quick piece of writing that again I think will challenge you and change you. So if you haven't picked up Emboldened yet, I would highly recommend it. Let's see, what else did I find that I loved? Oh yeah, over here is Ian Cron's The Road Back to You. So this is an Enneagram book. There's like 100 of them out now, but I will have to say I was very skeptical about the Enneagram. I love personality profiling stuff. Show me a Myers-Briggs, show me a StrengthsFinder. I'm all about them, and I thought the Enneagram was just sort of one more of those. Ian changed my mind with this book. Ian explains that the Enneagram is a guide to uncovering our shadow selves. It's that self that we formed as children to help us cope with a strange and dangerous world. And it was great when we were kids, but the problem is we hang on to them as adults. And so the Enneagram, he explained, is not a guide to showing you who you are, like a Myers-Briggs or a StrengthsFinder or something like that. He says the Enneagram shows you who you're really not. It helps you understand your shadow self and your impulses towards sin that you don't even recognize because they're so deeply embedded in your personality. And he gives you some practical, great tips on how to overcome those. And so, yeah, this is a great book from Ian Cron called The Road Back to You that if you've never read an Enneagram book, you should definitely start with, because I did, and it really opened my eyes to how useful this is for my own spiritual formation and, again, for leading my church. And then if you've read a bunch of Enneagram books, probably you'll still love this one because Ian's the bomb, and he's a great author, and he's a wonderful pastor. And so this is just, again, a tremendously helpful book. I think the last one that I was really excited, well, I'm excited about so many of these, but this one just came out a little over a month ago from InterVarsity. It's called Rethinking Incarceration, Advocating for Justice That Restores. It's by Dominic Gilyard, and this book, I'm about halfway through it right now, and it's really difficult to put down. It's challenging and gut-wrenching, and honestly, a pretty painful read because it exposes just how broken our justice system is. It puts names and faces and stories with things that have always just been figures and numbers, and it is a strong call for the church to engage in prison reform. You've probably begun to hear some talk about that, everything from Orange is the New Black to The New Jim Crow to Ava DuVernay's documentary The 13th, which you can watch on Netflix if you've never seen it. Dominic engages all of that, but he does it through the lens of faith. And so he talks to those texts, he has a conversation with them, and then he takes it into the realm of what can the church actually do to make a difference with this incredible blight on the American conscience. It's a clarion call for justice, and it's a clarion call for biblical activism, faith-based, informed, and again, I cannot put it down. It is challenging, it is insightful, it is scripturally thorough, and it is, now that I've said all that, it's really exciting because the vision that he gives us of a more just culture and a more just society is something that I want to aspire to, and I want my church to aspire to, and I hope it's something we can all aspire to. So I'm really grateful to Dominic for writing this and IVP for publishing it because that needs to get in as many hands as possible. Good?